Thank you.
Do you remember the scariest moment of your life? Had you asked me this question about a year ago, I'd probably say that it was the first time I stepped into a boxing ring, or the first time that I had to, the time that I had to basically tackle one of my little cousins to the ground to keep him from running into gunshots that came from the back of a truck while we were playing in front of his house. But right now, I know the scariest moment of my life is way worse than both of those put together. It happened about 2 months ago. My sister had been complaining kind of stomach pains for a little while, but it was nothing really that big. And one morning she came into my room and asked if we had a nail polish remover. And I'm not a morning person, so it takes me a while to process things in the morning. But as soon as I kind of got what she was saying, I jumped out of bed and I tried to find the nail polish remover. And as I gave it to her, she smelled it, and she took one whiff of it, and she completely passed out. And what scared me the most is that we usually don't wake up until my parents have left to work. And so I just saw her laying on the bathroom floor, and I tried to pull her up. And being the perfectly rational person I am, I started screaming my head off. And then I could feel her coming back to consciousness, and my parents, luckily, they were home, and they came, and they took her to the hospital. And I didn't go with them because I had to stay home. And so when they came back, they told me that she had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she's only 24. When we think of cancer, we usually think of either really elderly people or really young kids that we see on commercials for children's hospitals, but we don't really think of our own age group. Today I'd like to persuade you to get screened for any type of cancer that you can. I will do so today by sharing with you some statistics of people in our own age group of cancer, types of preventable cancers, and cancers that you should be getting tested for, and how often you should be getting tested for those cancers. The National Cancer Institute states that the adolescent and young adults aged 15 to 39 are much more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than children under 15. And this is a problem because right now the way age groups are separated with cancer is kids who are 16 and younger are children, and 16 and over are basically elderly. There's no in between right now. And the Teenage Cancer Trust, which basically is usually concentrated in the UK, the US has no trust of their own for middle age groups, says that young people get some of the most aggressive cancers, but because it's only about 0.5% of them, they usually go undiagnosed. And when it's cancer, the most important thing that you need to do is get diagnosed early. Although most cancers are genetic, so that's another thing that you need to look out for, that if maybe one of your family members has cancer, it could be genetic and be passed through you. Some of the most common cancers, including lung cancer, oral cancer, and skin cancer, are also preventable by getting screened regularly. And the cancer screening guidelines set by the American Cancer Society states that people aged 20 and older should have a cancer-related checkup at least once every 3 years. I never knew that. I always thought, you hear about them that you should get tested after you're 50, stuff like that. I never knew this about our age group. And a lot of these tests can vary from like blood work to maybe just getting a cotton swab in your mouth. And some of them could be really awkward and uncomfortable, like pap smears and colonoscopies. But suffering that one moment of awkwardness is saving you a lot than if you have to know that it's easier than finding out that you have cancer too late. Thankfully, when my sister got found out that she had cancer, she was at stage 1. So she had an operation that removed her uterus, and she's okay now. She's 99.9 cancer-free, because they tell you that you can never be 100% free of cancer. What they also told us is that because my grandmother had cancer from both my mom and my father's side, this also could be genetic, and that I should be tested, and that there's a lot of girls in my family, and that all of us should get tested because we're more susceptible to this. So getting tested for cancer and stuff, it really does sound scary, and it's really easy to put things off and just say, oh, I'm okay, I'm young, I can hold it off, but you should really do it because, especially with cancer, you need to find out early. And you do it once every 3 years, you can do it once you're over with, okay, keep going. It's like, it doesn't take that much of your time. So told you some reasons why you should get tested. And my sister is my best friend, and I really don't want to know what life would have been like without her. So if you think that you're okay, you're not going to do this, well, do it for your best friend, do it for your mom, do it for your sister, do it for somebody else who thinks that they could have cancer but are too scared to go test it. Do it together.
So JJ, what did you think?
I thought the attention device was really good. I mean, any personal event like that is good to share, so you can actually see it in her face that it was a traumatizing moment. I thought the intro was really good. I thought throughout the speech there should be a little bit more signposts, and other than that, I think it was a very good speech.
Okay. Well, I'll agree with you on the introduction. I like the story that you tell and the way you build it up and lead us to the topic. There's a good piece of information early on that tells us why it's particular for this age group and builds up relevance for the audience in this situation. I like that. You had a good layout of what your supporting points are going to be. Internally, I do think that the signposting was fairly clear. I think some of the supporting points need to be developed a little bit more. The notion that people in this age group often go undiagnosed or that it's a pretty significant problem, you can work on this a little bit. Some more examples or cases to get additional emotional involvement. I did like the fact that you came back to your personal experience also. I thought that adds some emotional appeal to the argument as well. When you're talking about your solutions, you do try and minimize them a little bit to make them seem less onerous or less something that people would resist. But this would be another one of those places where a narrative and some statistics would help back up the information. So the structure's fine, the topic is good, you've got some good information. I think it needs to be developed a little bit more, and I thought it was delivered very nicely. You have a good way of talking to the audience, you're pretty direct. Maybe a little bit of awkwardness with the arm swinging and that kind of stuff, but that was not a big deal, just a minor quibble, something to pay attention to in the future. All right. Thank you.